All right, I'm gonna go live on Twitch.
The best comedy is when you
I'm
go
gonna
full
go live on
circle.
Twitch.
The best comedy is
Alright,
when you
I'm
go
gonna
full
live on
circle.
Twitch.
The best comedy.
Oh yeah, I gotta go find us some tools. Oh yeah, I gotta go find us some tools. Oh yeah, I
Pop
gotta
out
go
the
find
chat
us
so I
some
don't watch myself.
Oh yeah, I
Pop
gotta
out
go
the
find
chat
us
so I don't watch
Oh my
myself.
god,
Oh yeah,
where?
I didn't
So
realize you.
Oh my
Oh
god,
yeah,
where?
I didn't
So
realize
What?
what I
Oh
would
my god.
literally do is sit there and hear the echo. I
Yeah.
just hear well. So one thing I learned from a buddy of mine who does streaming when he does like disc golf dying.
Mhm.
If you mute if somebody at home has their Twitch on mute, it doesn't count as a viewer count.
Correct.
They have to have the volume on at least one.
Yeah.
Well, I did
But
not know that.
but it's like what you can do though is if you right click the tab, you can control the volume on muting the tab. So the tab is muted, but you're not muting the video. So you can have the volume up all the way, but mute the tab.
Sounds like
And that'll
cheating, and I love
it is. It absolutely is because I don't have to so you can just leave it on and mute the tab, and then it doesn't actually. It still counts for Twitch's stupid bullshittery.
I like it.
The pack screw. Hello.
So
Todd.
I've got bad news, guys. I can't go to Vegas.
What?
No parent coverage.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hello, Vincent. Todd says no.
I did
Just
too.
Like
And the double bummer is Scott's not able to go, so I can't give him the ticket. So I got to go put it out on the open market.
Wait, that's we yelled Scott too. Everyone. Hold on, I might.
Yeah, I
miss
was
one of
hoping
these.
Scott could go. We could actually win the stupid thing.
Todd says he has someone who will buy your ticket.
I'm about to say I might have somebody.
I'll get with him. Yeah.
Might race you.
I'll take competitive bidding, but in all seriousness, just break even's fine.
I gotta get the curl going now. The mustache is long enough again.
Give it to Dizzard so I'll secretly play.
Ahoy!
I'm a helper.
Helper.
I'm a helper, and then I'll just
Dizzard was a helper doing math this weekend or last weekend. This time a week ago with your abacus.
Yeah, it worked.
I saw that. I was like, oh, that is real good.
Literally, he was trying to figure it out, and he was trying to do it on his phone and kept screwing up the total. So I'm like, he's like, do you have something else I can write on? I'm like, well, I can give you this because it's funny.
And it worked. It actually worked really well. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was very efficient.
I'm bummed I missed out on that. I was just in a shady hotel room by the airport, like, and I did not sleep well. I woke up every hour, like, I missed the flight. Nope, it's 1 a.m. Go back to sleep.
Oh, those are the worst. Where you go to sleep anxious and your body just wakes up the whole time
on edge the entire time because a 5:45 flight is the worst thing ever.
That's what sleeping pills are for.
That would be a bad idea. I need to wake up.
I mean, you wake up eventually. It's
like
fine.
after the flight's airborne, like that's not gonna work.
It all depends, you know. Like
road trip it next time, right? It's only like a 20-hour drive.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Well, that's good to go. That's good to go. Let me get my notes. AKA last week's notes, or the week before that, even. Organize to its funnest.
Yeah, I don't have a hot take yet. I'm hilariously unprepared.
I have so many hot takes that I don't know which one I want.
He's throwing them out, giving them out for free.
I'll take one. What you got?
One? Your hot take for this episode will be that Maul is good. We gotta say it again because it's like they didn't say it last week, so we gotta say it this week.
At this point, that's like Rancor Pit, not a hot take. It's barely lukewarm. Like I can't even taunt on that.
It's warm enough.
No, that cold pick is the carbonite pick.
Oh, fair enough.
Are we gonna grade everyone's picks afterwards?
Omnis was unable.
No Omnis tonight. Yeah.
So I don't mind grading it, but we don't need a whole 20-minute spiel of.
No, yeah. We'll just Normal routine, right? We don't want to take
Yeah.
Omnis's thing.
We can rank him if we want. We can steal the rankings. It's just we don't need to go into detail about why we rank that. It's fine.
And fight over it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, I sat there listening to that episode and was like, I'm kind of jealous because this is like really good chemistry and shit. Like, what happened?
The word
How
picture
did
would be a
Omnis
secret
get a
week
better
long.
crew?
That's really where Omnis is. He's out doing another podcast now with all those people.
Yep,
This
the
is
rogue went
Circle
rogue.
AI bot in here just to mislead us.
He's
Exactly.
heckling us from the other riverside, right?
Exactly. All right. Well, I guess we got a show to do. Let's go ahead and get things rolling. Where are my buttons at? Okay. I guess Matt, since you were the TO, do you want to lead this? I don't really know how we're gonna do this
Yeah.
because Omnis was supposed to lead it. But
Yeah, I have like some of the base Longshank stuff.
I guess
There's
I'll start off with um asking you TO type questions, and then we'll just let you take over and do the rest.
Okay, and
We're all
then
It'll
just
be really
passing
good
through.
perspective because we've got like from the top tier and then the not top tier.
and then again, like going through rounds, like just try to hit kind of a
The
key
highlights.
point, not go through like a turn by turn of the game.
Yeah. It's been so long now, I don't remember anyways. All right.
I can tell you who I played and probably the high level overview of what hit the table, and that's where we're at.
That's fair. All right. Let's get started then. Hitting the buttons.
Welcome, my young apprentice. Stretch out with your feelings. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Welcome back to another week of Rogue Support, where we are always in your corner of the cantina. As always, thank you for listening. Come join the discussion in Discord, where Omnis makes even wilder hot takes than Accuser has a hard time sleeping before Red Eye. Anyways, a big thank you to our patrons for supporting us in all of the ways. You guys are wonderful people, and if you would like to join the patron to join this wonderful people, then feel free to click the link in the description, and yeah, it's there. Don't forget we do have that episode, like little bonus feed with the draft picks on the Patreon as a free episode, so it is there. And I'm like spacing and trying to like think, did I actually put that up there? I could have sworn I did. Anyways, and then as well, be sure to go check the Goonhammer Media Network as we have joined forces with them to further promote the game. Let's just jump right into hot takes and cold drinks. I guess I'll go first. I won't do it, Accuser. I won't be mean to you. I got good old sour monkey left over from the trip last weekend, and hot take. I think probably the hottest take I have right now might just be that armor is better on Never Tell Me than people give her credit for. I think that's probably the hottest take I have right now.
Does that include you? Because I seem to remember you saying that she's not good on Never Tell.
You missed more when you left early, and Matt and I were up until 3 o'clock in the morning, like going through some things and being like, armor is actually kind of scary on Never Tell Me if you do it right.
I mean, she moves how much now?
Yeah, no,
It's a lot. Yeah.
But it is a very common consensus where armor is terrible on Never Tell Me, and it's good to bring Never Tell Me against her. I always thought she was like okay, but she didn't want to be bringing it herself. But we kind of got to the point where I was like, maybe I just bring Never Tell Me. Like, so it's there. But yeah, that's me. Let's go, Matt.
Cold drink. I am drinking a Road to Ruin double IPA from Two Roads Brewing, and my hot take. I'm really upset Omnis isn't here because he's either gonna entirely agree with me or entirely disagree with me. But
Let me see if I can channel him and I'll respond.
I think at high level of play in Shatterpoint, the mission and the order deck matter more than anything else in determining the outcome of a game, with the exception of a major misplay. Not even like, I think minor misplays, the order deck can can tip the balance, but a major misplay is something different. And that includes like dice. I really do think the order deck is and the mission are more impactful than even minor mistakes.
I don't know how to feel about that
I don't
because
know how
like
to channel Omnis for that one. Yeah.
yeah, like so like my big thing with that type of statement is like paraphrasing of course, it almost comes down to basically saying that there's no point of playing this game because RNG is what's deciding it. Barring like little mistakes here and there. Because if you're saying it's up to the order deck and it's up to the mission, those are two completely RNG based elements.
You still have to make the right play, right?
Mhm.
Like, so that's where the challenge is. But yeah, I mean, and also part of mission deck also is like switching between struggles as well.
Yeah.
You know, there are some times where you can just, I mean, look, as you and I played a game this week that we went 3 struggles and the game ended when Dizzard drew his first card of his reshuffle. So the game ended on Dizzard's eighth activation. Like, so because we had 2 of the struggles got
Yeah.
instantly decided by the card that got flipped.
Well, I guess I like it's like I said, I do agree. Like I'm not disagreeing. I just don't know how to word it in a way that doesn't make it seem like RNG is
I
deciding games at
agree.
top table.
No, I agree because there's still the pressure of not making mistakes, right? Like mistakes happen. Mistakes happen at different stages in the game. You can make mistakes because of the order deck. Like you can potentially, reserve something in a spot you probably shouldn't have, or vice versa. Um, I agree. I don't mean to say that it's all luck because obviously I
Yeah.
still said at a top level, so that means you're still not making like major mistakes. And major mistakes are things like missing obvious triggers that would help you type thing. Little mistakes like, oh, I should have been, a half a range 1 closer to this objective or something like that. Okay, you might lose a die on a roll, something like that, or like I did my activation or my actions in the wrong order. Um, Things
So
like that I think are minor.
I would actually feel like I would argue that I do think that top tables are largely dictated by mission and order deck. But I think that's also what makes it a top table game is what the pilot is able to do with those elements being so polarizing.
Sure. I don't necessarily think I'm setting my point. Like this was my take, and it was just something I've been thinking
Yeah.
about this week in general. Partially in also to like kind of de-stress from the idea of trying to figure out a list for LVO. Where it's like, hey, look, like as long as I keep playing a clean game, I think at some point variance is going to either tip my way or tip against me, right? Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Accuser.
So my cold drink, I've got Sam Adams' Old Fezziwig. I'm still working through a giant multi-pack, so and it's still good. So Sam Adams does not miss on seasonal. Hot take. Wow, missing out on the up to 3 a.m. conversation kind of sucked for me because I feel like I'm like half a conversation behind. Um, no, but like hot take, like if you can get to a convention because the conventions are the best way to get a lot of games, meet cool people, and have fun with it. So if you can go to LVO, go. I might have a ticket available if someone's interested. But otherwise, yeah, go to a con and have fun with the game. I went 1 and 3 at PAX and still had a blast. So
Yeah, good. Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and move into what you been up to. What you been up to, Matt? What you been up to?
so I'll save the pack stuff for later.
Okay.
Got a lot of games in this week, some after packs, back at the house, and then Diz and I played 2 quick ones on TTS this week. Just trying to test out armor things because I keep trying to convince myself to find reasons not to just play armor right now.
How hard is that? I'm sorry. How is that going for you?
It's the problem is what I really want to do is play Maul, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's really what I want to be playing at LVO,
I
and
got a
I just
list for
can't.
you.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is every time I try to build it, I'm like, man, you know what would really be great here? Like armor or something like that. So, um, but yeah, that's really what I'm up to. You know, otherwise, again, trying to slowly figure out what I'm doing for LVO.
Fair enough. I guess I'll go. Basically, my only games in Shatterpoint this week were actually with you, like PAX last weekend, and then played a couple games with you. Oh, I had a league game too that I did miserable with. Had this, I don't know. I just played it super early in the morning because I was like trying to be efficient with time, and I made some real silly mistakes and everything. I'm like, after the game, I got to the point where I told him, I was like, man, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry I didn't give you a better game. um, he's like, no, it's okay, it's okay. So, but now me and him are 1-on-1. So I enjoy playing him. He's a good player.
See,
Other
so
than
it's not the
that,
normal Dizzard week of I played 19 games this week, and
no,
why isn't everyone else
I took
playing
it,
2 dozen games at their local game store?
I took it a hair down. You know, I only played 3 games this
Okay.
week. Um, and then yeah, just been busy with trying to get like stuff resituated with come back after the trip. And yeah, let's go accuser.
Honestly, I've not done anything Shatterpoint related outside of the Discord since PAX. I limped back to Florida and licked my wounds from a 1 to 3 showing and haven't done anything with it since, but I'm looking forward to getting a game. I know Matt was looking for a TTS games earlier, so hoping to get 1 or 2 this week. And I've got PTO coming up starting Thursday this week, and I'm off until the new year, so hoping to get some games during the day as I can. See if I can
Yeah,
make up for lost time.
absolutely. I got a comment from Angry Penguin talking about the RNG stuff. Isn't a big portion of list building about minimizing the RNG effects of the order deck? Having multiple units that are good turn one, things that can be in the middle of the board, flip multiple objectives. Yeah, very late game things happen, but big picture, it shouldn't matter over a long enough series of games. The RNG should even out even if you're making strong lists. Or if even out if you are making strong lists. And I agree that I think that comes back to the whole thing where I said like I think yes, mission and table edge and all like the drop does matter. But I do think that's what makes it a top table game is what those pilots are able to do with those aspects.
I think part of it though is that yes, those you can build strong lists that mitigate that, but those are then the lists that keep rising to the top, so that good players are bringing those strong lists that mitigate that, and then when you and your opponent are both mitigating it at the same level, it just comes back to the same thing. And again, I still don't mean to say that games are just all decided by RNG, but there's a lot of I mean there's still luck in it. It's still it's not a pure science, although we still call it a chess like game because of having to think kind of moves in advance. It's still not chess. There are still not well, I guess everything is mathematically equatable, but like there's too many variations to really say that there's an easy way to determine it.
So
Like yeah.
I got a question for you though. Like this just popped in my head. If like I gotta defend this too because I said I agree with you. But if order deck has such a major part in like a top cuts game, then why isn't Moth the number one seed?
uh
He is the sole primary that messes with your opponent's order deck.
yeah, I think there's a lot of I think he obviously didn't do great at PAX, but he keeps seeing a lot of play for a reason.
Yeah, but
Um,
he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right?
yeah, at some point again, like good character, other people have list mitigation for that, right? Like, I know if I'm bringing a premier list and I have like my Obi Hunter, right? I never want to take that into Gideon because I know I
Yeah.
need my order deck. So I play a list and just accept that, like, hey, it's got to go into my planning, and I can make mistakes because of that. Like, you're adding more variance into my decision making tree.
So then I guess like arguably the point itself could really just be list building has more to do with the outcome of top cuts than we probably think it does.
In top cuts, I mean, and that's always a thing, right? I remember we've had conversations in the past, and so have other podcasts about, hey, these are lists that tend to do better in Swiss pairings, and these
Yeah.
are listed to be better in Top Cut. And a lot of times we were seeing like Gideons do really well in Swiss and not cutting it in Top Cut, right? Because a
Yeah.
good player, the better players in theory have more plans to mitigate it or have thought about the plans to mitigate those impacts.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, all right. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead and jump into today's main topic. We're gonna be kind of doing a review of PAX. All three of us were there. Ominous is not here. He had some stuff come up that had to take precedence over this. In all reality, he's now locked up in my basement, and we did not let him out.
That's a callback.
Ah, you won't get that. Some of you, most of you will probably. But with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and start with basically asking Matt questions from a TO perspective, and then we're gonna flip it over to Matt, and we're just gonna go over a review of PAX, try to keep this nice and clean, and just really kind of just talk about the experience overall and the event. So let's go ahead and start with Matt. How did the event, from a TO perspective, go?
So I think it went well. We had all of the common things that happen at conventions where people drop out like last minute. We had a lot of people drop. 3 weeks out, we were at 30. We started the event at 19. A mix of we had some people who actually dropped because when the announcement was made that there weren't dice in the GT packet, we had 2 people drop because of that, and they told me that was why they dropped. Um, we had some people who dropped because they procrastinated to get tickets and then procrastinated to tell me in the window where I could still fix the problem. So we had a couple people drop because of that. We had some illnesses, right? That happens. It's a con, things come up. But otherwise, I think it went well from a, overall, the way the event runs. PAX is a little weird because we can't really start until 11, or at least that's what we thought. Obviously, they opened the doors earlier this year. Would have been great if they had told us that far enough in advance. Um, from a judging perspective, we had some interesting conversations at the beginning. Obviously, there's no ruling out on Veers. We kind of made a decision about that ahead of time. I did my normal spiel talking about here's how I would rule. All of our terrain from AMG was the official AMG stuff from Adepticon. So every table had basically a high ground and a garage bay. And I kind of said, like, hey, these are the things you need to discuss with your opponent. And I just kind of said right out of the gate, like, if you guys agree on something, great. If you guys can't agree, here's my way of ruling it. So this is how I'm going to rule it. So if you guys can't agree, I've now told you what the answer is if you want to call judge. So I think
Do you have
that helped.
a quick question before I forget about it?
Yeah.
Relevant. As a TO slash somebody setting up the tables, compared to what you're used to, how was it basically having to use nothing but AMG terrain?
It was a little boring from a player variance perspective. I'm sure there are the people who are very, who want to play more of that top table. They're like, I don't care what the board looks like. I'm only in it. I'm using it just to, fulfill my objective and try to win the game. They probably don't care, right? It's just great. It's a different way of looking at the chessboard. But for a lot of players, also, every table just kind of felt the same to me. I don't know. I
No, that's
really
fair.
appreciate, Mike and the Adepticon team for bringing it in and setting it up. We tweaked it a little bit, moved some things around, and then especially shifted stuff for the top tables. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite, but I also appreciate not having to have set it up and drug all the terrain in Philadelphia. So
No, and I think it's completely fair, and big thanks to those guys. I just find it super interesting because, like, I guess we'll just hit player perspective real quick. Like, player perspective, I completely agree. Like, I was like, it's the same terrain choices are here. It's just organized separately. Like, it's just a little bit different, but it's not like it's still the same choices. Like, I just have to work around the terrain of the high ground. I have to work around the gantries being this way. I know these landing spots, and I guess from that perspective, it is kind of nice, and it does make me wonder if playing with 3D printed terrain or not AMG specific terrain, if that does mess with like basic game mechanics, if it's not ever tested on not AMG type terrain, if you know what I mean. Like like, oh, this type of interaction wouldn't happen with regular AMG terrain. It's only happening because it's 3D printed terrain. I've never thought of a moment that thoughts crossed my mind, but it does make me ponder if that is a thing.
I could see it having a big impact, like particularly with ingress points, because I know like some of the 3D prints have significantly narrower ladders than the AMG official terrain, which means your ingress point just does not cover as much radius when you go up or down. So I could see that as something where a lot of the core mechanics around movement change. You
The
get a
ones
little less distance or even a little more.
the ones to me that matter the most, as someone who's thought about this a lot, are I'll go with three different things. The variation of height of a height one, and obviously, yes, we know, right? Like taking a range 2 and turning it sideways is one height, but like I've seen some 3D printed terrains where their level 1 based on their gantries is like 3 times as high, or it's really short, or they have bridges that kind of have things that hang down the side. So you run into those issues on some 3D printed tables where taller models don't fit under things that they should be able to. Another one are things that aren't just completely cylindrical or, complete vertical, 90-degree sides. I think of like if you've seen Imperial Terrain's Forest Moon set, like rules is written get really weird where, obviously, yeah, my model can kind of see over the side of this route, but rules is written, you actually can't see around that. And the last one then is 3D printed things with like bases around them or like some kind of extended brim. That also causes a problem.
Yeah, completely fair. All right, sorry to interrupt you, but I figured it was relevant. But continue on.
And then the only other thing that was kind of weird is I had so I think the hardest thing with judging, well, there are two things difficult with not difficult, but the things I always think about with judging is one, the challenge of remembering what was the rule change post errata comes up for me sometimes where like I've played it both ways and somebody will ask me something. I'm like, yep, there are two different rulings for that. There is the old one and the new one. And it takes me a second to go, which one's the new one? And often I'll look it up on my phone, less for me to confirm, but more I like to show to the player, like, hey, this is my ruling and here's where I'm getting it from. Like this is what's supporting my decision. The issue comes when your mouth moves faster than your brain does. And I I got asked the question for a ruling and I immediately was like, "Yep, this is the answer. Keep going." And then I kind of stopped and I turned away from the table and immediately went, "Oh shit. I'm wrong." Turned back and they had already advanced the game state far enough that we're like figuring out how to fix and rewind time. And then part of the problem was is I'm trying to like show, hey, here's where I made a mistake. I want to pull up the correct ruling. I have both players kind of helping, trying to like, well, here's how I see it and here's how I see it. Like no one it's not saying anyone's trying to like lobby me, but I'm trying to find this while, listening to both players. Obviously it's impacting the game. And then ultimately we got to the right decision. We got to the right ruling. And then I gave them a time extension. Um, I know that's nowhere in AMG's rules. And if I did that wrong, whoops. But to me, it felt like the most fair thing. I took up time because of my ruling, so it wasn't fair to them that I'm taking away from their game time. So I started an extra timer for at that point. So when we hit mission critical, I went over and said, "You guys have, more time until you hit your mission critical." Obviously, I'm not telling them how much time they got in addition. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that was right. Oh, but it felt like the most fair way to handle it.
I think I would have done the same, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah, otherwise, from a TO perspective, obviously we always like seeing more people, but we had a really good crowd. Minimal issues of any sort. The packed convention hall is great. It can get a little loud. I give players a lot of credit for kind of handling that during the day. Um, as I lost my voice after day one. If any of you have ever met me at a con, by by the start of day 2, I sound like I have like a sore throat. By the start of day 3, I sound like I'm a chain smoker, and on the start of day 4, it sounds like I've been throat punched by Sylvester Stallone. So, somebody was dumb enough to give me a megaphone for Saturday. That was fun.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my that was from the TO side. I'm curious. Oh, I'm looking at the link to the article about kit bashing in buildings. Oh, I did
That
see
was
this.
actually a really cool article. I did enjoy
Yeah,
that.
the AMG terrain article about like expanding things. I didn't actually get a chance to read through it. But
They kit bashed a really cool building, just like flipping gantries sideways and cutting them up. It was inspiring.
how expensive are those buildings? Just think of how
Like,
much their terrain costs.
I
I mean,
totally just realized I was
oh,
muted this whole time.
yeah, I saw you muted, but like it was like I'm not gonna call you out like we're in the middle of a meeting. I'm gonna do that all day tomorrow anyway. So, thanks, work. Fill the silence instead.
I was really kind of curious, actually. Is this Cody's brother or a relative of Cody?
I don't
You know
know
what I'm
what
talking
you're
about, right?
talking about.
Well,
Like,
Ewok
I
player.
when you say Cody, I'm assuming the clone trooper, but
Or- Anyways, I guess don't mind me.
Oh, he means Cody Hawkins because it's
Yeah,
Cody
he's like,
Hawkins in the kit bashing.
yeah. But anyways, Accuser, do you have any questions for Matt for a TO perspective on packs?
no, I think he covered most everything. I'm not going to ask him who his most difficult judge call was and why was it me, but
Wait,
Fair.
it wasn't.
no, it wasn't. There's no way. I'm too easygoing for that.
All right. All right. I guess with that, we'll go to Matt to lead the rest of the discussion here, and I'll hand it away. Go ahead.
All right, so we're gonna kind of start just quick overview what you guys brought because we did not actually finalize your list when we had we talked in the episode beforehand. So I'm gonna start with you, Phil, Accuser. What did you bring? What was your final list?
So, as everyone kind of, I think, knew, I went Kanan Hera for half of it. I did a 2x2 model, so it was Kanan, Ezra Chopper, Hera, Callus Commandos. Big believer in Callus, love Commandos. It's a natural fit, I think, in most Rebel builds right now. And then under pressure, I locked a list the night before as I flailed through like 3 or 4 ideas. And where did I land? It was Mando and Leia. So I think it was Leia Lobot, Lando Bartu, and then Mando, Luke Skywalker, and then Han and Chewie. Um, so that was the final outcome that I settled on, and I didn't hate it, but I definitely showed I don't play Mando enough live, so it was good and bad.
All right, and then Diz, where did you wind up?
We ended up pretty much right where the list started. But with different mindset, right? We called the list Armor All, like like the car cleaning wipes. Yay. Armor Box, Maul, Bow, Supers, Mando, Boba, Clan Kreese, and then Mama, Gar, and Night Sisters. Breeding, shifting priorities. Basically just kept going back to Mother Talzin. Big shout out to Booker because he kept pushing me back towards Mother Talzin. While all you guys kept telling me to go away from Mother Talzin.
Did I?
No. I'm just talking shit. It was mostly I put the list back up, and then almost is like, "Why are you back on Mother?" Like, I have my reasons. Leave me alone.
Mostly just because we watch you flail in the chat and then you come full circle and just do what you were gonna do anyway.
Well, it's crazy because like this list is besides the Boba pick, this list is literally like where the list started. And I think Bo and Gar were swapped originally, but yeah, like the list is literally where I started with the list. So that was fun. But yeah, Any questions about what or why or anything?
No, I think we kind of hit on where you guys were landing, and I went back and listened to our episode pre-PAX, and basically, you guys explained kind of how you were thinking about getting to the spots you were. A little less for Phil, who was all over the place. As you landed Thursday night, still trying to figure out what you were playing, but
Yeah, like I'd experimented with Lando and didn't like where that was going, and then tried him in what was the Friday event, Frenemies, and just
yeah,
flailed with him. Whenever I play Lando, he ends up on the bottom of my draw deck, and that just kind of screws you like repeatedly. And I think Matt, like that one test game, Lando was bottom decked twice,
yep.
like across two shuffles. It doesn't feel good. Like then you're just playing 5 force, and it's like, well, I could have played Hondo at this point and gotten more mileage. So
Hondo's good.
why?
Hondo's fine.
No, I love Hondo.
Hondo's the better
You go
scavenger
back and
leader than
listen to
Lando.
Whoa.
Oh,
Hondo doesn't give you
Hey,
access to
we're
Empire
gonna.
toys. Lando just can get card fucked. Like it's
Honda went 2-0 in Swiss at PAX. I'm just saying.
just
Hondo
saying.
made
Land,
an appearance in Top Cut at PAX. So
Lando only went 2-1 at PAX. Just saying.
He wasn't
Um,
in tops.
um, and kind of with that, I wanted to, in kind of looking at the meta and thinking about the meta. First off, obviously the most important part about PAX, let's be real, is I won our Rogue Support Fantasy Shatterpoint draft.
By 1 point.
I won. It doesn't matter. Horseshoes and hand
did we even
grenades, my
discuss the
friend.
final store? Like I don't even
Yeah,
know
right
where
now.
I landed with that. I
We're
think I
doing it
got
right now.
3.
You had 4, I think. There's a picture.
Oh.
Yeah, wherever the picture is on Discord, that's what's going to be our record. Because I did not actually go through and minus just double checking the math. I actually didn't write it out. um, so as for everyone, as a reminder of our bet, Diz, Omnis, and I guess Accuser, you have to mail me a beer from Florida at LVO, but
It can be arranged.
it's almost like I just picked armor lists and there were a lot of armor. So let's get into the meta a little bit. So I want to call back to my hot take from the week before where I said there was going to be more armor in the top cut than there would be empire lists. And I got some strange looks from some of my co-hosts. I'd like to point out that the empire did not see the top cut
At all.
at all.
That is true.
Period. There was not an Empire player there. There were Empire players, so an Empire player got tiebreakered out of the top cut. And then the next Empire player was 8th. So yeah. Empire really didn't make a showing.
What's that say though? Like what is that? Actually, I want to point real quick. Qui-Gon did in the chat. Can we give AMG credit for armor? The release single-handedly balanced Empire and made older stuff relevant again.
Yeah, right? Like, and I don't think the answer that is that armor is broken, and I'm sure there are people who are going to go running around like, oh, the end is here, armor, the end
Grab
is
your hammer
here.
and tongs and
It's
let's
almost
go
like
wreck face.
it's almost like we heard this a couple months ago with Iden, right? The end is here, the end is here. I think armor is not as oppressive, but I agree a lot with the sentiment of armor brought Empire in balance because it's somebody who can do what Empire can do in the term of just murder stuff and not get punished when Empire achieves their plan as well, which is the big thing, right? Like,
Yeah, I think we discussed it quite a bit while we were like in the car and everything. I think armor is the true like attrition primary in the game because she not only wrecks face, plenty of models in the game wreck face and have since like Vader 1 dropped, but then she gives you the tools to outlast your opponent. The one of the biggest balancing acts in the game is the force cost, and armor just makes it a non-factor for your Mandalorians. And with Bo Katan and Clan Kreese now being every era, you can have as many Mandalorians as you want on the table, and none of them pay the price for getting wounded. It's a great glass cannon.
I think we need to separate the term attrition into attrition or aggro because I think they are two
Right.
very different things in this game now.
I would agree with
Because
that.
like Iden was always clumped into attrition. When I think of attrition, I think of pieces that are lasting, not pieces that are hitting hard. Like to me,
Yeah,
Iden's more
I
of
would
an
agree with
aggro
that.
list, and armor is more of an attrition list.
Mhm.
So that's
I think to be attrition, you have to have aggro, but yeah, I think Iden's not outlasting like armor
I mean,
can.
so like Syracuse and I were talking, and I think Matt and I talked about this too, where it's like armor is not really even really an attrition piece, just because of the fact that like armor is doing 9 damage if you hit your whole tree. On average, she's hitting 4, which is only 7 damage, which is still taking out a number of supports, but it's not taking out the majority of supports or secondaries or primaries. Armor is a very finesse piece in that way. But like instead of attrition, calling armor more of a blitz piece because she wants to get there fast, and smack you hard and fast and just overwhelm you. And that's more of armor's game plan than an attrition game plan or a aggro game plan. It's really a blitz game plan to where it's like I'm just gonna run down your throat as fast as hard as I can, and we'll say we had a good time.
I think that's true for armor herself, but what she enables for your team is attrition.
No, that I agree with, but I do think the armor playstyle plan isn't necessarily attrition. Like I'm not sitting there and hoping I can go all 3 struggles and just like go brain dead because the game went so long. I'm wanting the game to go fast. I want it to go hard. I want it to be over.
Hmm.
All right. So with that, let's get into a little bit of round by round here, and we kind of want to do this as rapid fire. Just if there was a quick highlight to the game. So round one, we'll start off with you, Accuser. You played Code Hour. You played your Mando PLC into what he ran was Maul and Mother.
Yup, I made the game time decision to play my other half of the 2x2 just so I opened up my options as quickly as possible. I had fully intended to play Kanan and Hera the rest of the day, but I mean, hindsight being what it is, I probably would have done that differently. But yeah, I hit the table with Mando PLC, figuring with Maul and some of the other pieces on the table, Savage in particular, I probably need to have pure revenge. Um, and that was kind of interesting going into Talzin, who kind of does the same thing, right? But yeah, it was a really interesting game where it wound up being a scrum in the middle. Han and Chewie showed up, and they showed up most of packs for me. I think they might have been um, team MVP for me. I feel like they just do so much work every time they activate. He had Savage in the middle of the board before he even activated, thanks to Talzin, which meant I think I had Savage wounded twice by the time first struggle was done.
Yeah, I feel like I do remember coming over and seeing 2 Savage wounds early.
Yeah, because Savage then whiffed trying to kill Luke on his like last stand thing. So like secondary Luke kind of limped away from Savage. So I mean, other than that, it was a really solid game, and I felt really strong coming out of it. Which the rest of it was my only win of the day. So let the record speak for itself at that point.
And then Diz, you had what would ultimately be a top cut matchup again, but you played your Armor and Maul into General Joseph playing Grievous and Lumi.
Yeah. So first of all, a big shout out to Joseph, wonderful opponent. Only been playing the game for like not very long, comparatively speaking. Like really good.
Hmm.
Him and his brothers all played very well
His
for being newer to the game.
his brother's Kadawar, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
that Kodower and
yeah.
Jay Boar, I do believe.
No,
No,
no.
God, who's the other? No, who's the other? Jay Boar's the
Moff,
other guy. 3D
He was my
Eric.
second round. I get the Moff Thrawn.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
Like I
Eric.
think the three of them came together at least. Yeah,
yeah, and all 3 of them are really good players.
they're doing some
Um,
quality reps in their group. Like
yeah,
it was tough games for me first and second round, no
but
question.
saw his list. He Grievous, Lumi, Ahsoka, Mando, and I was like, well, I'm playing Maul Armor. He had never told me as well, which also just said play Maul Armor because it's the comfy pick for the matchup. And he dropped General Grievous and Lumi, and he actually picked my shifting, which was surprising. I, I I forgot what he said exactly, but it was along the lines of where I think at the end of the game he even said that he should have picked Never Tell Me that game as well. Um, and then he did it in the tops. But it was just I think Maul Armor was good into what he was bringing, and it just went well. And there's a pattern for my first 3 rounds where it's like struggle 1 was over in like 30 to 40 minutes, which is really kind of like emphasize this whole blitz play style with armor. Is like the longest struggle 1 I had was my round 4. But outside of that, I think my longest struggle 1 was like 45 minutes, if that even. So, real quick game, really good game, good player. Love Maul Armor.
All right, so both of you guys come out of round 1 with a win. Going into round 2, Accuser, you played Grand Moff Eric. So Eric played his Moff Gideon Thrawn into your Spectre list.
Right. So we hit the table and he had Gideon, Thrawn, and I want to say it was Vader Iden. So I sat there and gave it a little bit of thought. It's like, well, either I end up being outgunned with Iden Vader or outmaneuvered with Thrawn Gideon. So I hedged and went with Spectre because I thought it was the best balance between a reactive play style and being able to try to match Moff Gideon Thrawn's movement. Obviously, he dropped Thrawn Gideon, and it was I put my best effort into that one, but I just couldn't keep up with Thrawn and Moff Gideon. I mean, he had the Death Trooper on the midline very quickly, and Fifth Brother embedded like a tick in my backline even faster, which was a problem that I had to deal with. I got Fifth Brother down to like 1 hit point, and then he activated Moff Gideon, just long lived the Empire him, flipped him, and just reset the clock, and it was. Well, I don't have an answer to that. So it was an entire game where I felt like I was on my back foot and just could not get ahead of that list. I love Thrawn Gideon. It's like the only Empire list I've enjoyed playing, and with a good reason. It's just if you don't have a game plan into it, it hurts. You can't keep up with it.
As I
Yeah, he
realized,
played it super well. I felt like there was just an answer for everything I did.
well, and that's certainly obviously right. Like, we talked about beforehand. You can have a list that is like, oh, this is designed to be my list when I see like Empire, and doesn't mean it's just not going to go well, right? Things can still go wrong. So, um, all right. Round 2 then for you, Diz. You played Jabor, one of our locals here. You played your Mando and mother into his Anakin Obi-Wan.
Yeah, so this is not this one's a little weird, right? It very much was like I looked at his list and we both had the same mission, and no, he had sabotage. I'm pretty sure he had sabotage.
Yeah, he was all Republic. He brings
yeah.
sabotage.
And I was pretty much just like, I reckon I can play and just dump the other half of my list just so that way I'm out of the clear. And it sure enough, it worked out just fine. I was just able to punish him with Mother very, very well, and just got carried off of the laurels of Mother being good, in my opinion. Then I'm punishing for that, and then Mando's punishing with the movement, so it's just really being able to punish Anakin for trying to play his own game. That's really what it came down to. And yeah, great opponent, great game.
All right, it's moving around 3. Diz 2-0. Accuser 1-1. Accuser, then you played. Hold on, I found it. Where did it go? You played Clown Town. Round 2 or round 3. You ran your Spectralist again. He ran Hunter Maul.
Yeah, so I started getting smacked around by the guys in General Joseph's car, and then everyone in Dizzard's car got to smack me around from there. So I played one of Dizzard's locals, Austin. He brought Maul Hunter, which was a really cool combo because I think he had like the Hunter Wrecker tech kit, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Maul Crosshair Fifth Brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a super solid list. And so when I hit the table and
Bounties,
sabotage was, I think,
bounties,
his
not,
mission.
not brother.
Oh, it's bounty hunters. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
because they on the trail pretty quickly, and so when I hit the table and saw that, it was like, all right, well, I don't think Pure Spectre is the answer here. Um, Especially on Sabotage, I felt like I needed the Mandalorian. It was not a mistake to bring Mandalorian, but boy, was it a table full of mistakes from there because I've not played Kanan and Mando at the same time. And this is the game where to go back to it's not the order deck that was screwing me. I was screwing me with my play. I put Mando up really early on one of the side points, scored 4-0, but he was on the top of the high ground. And player perspective, he's on the other side of the entry point on the tower, and then out of sight, out of mind, and just forgot his trigger for like 4 opportunities to reposition him. So Mandalorian was irrelevant for most of the game because I completely forgot about it, and I think both of our eyes popped when I think like mid struggle too. I was like, "Holy fuck! I've been forgetting about Mandalorian the entire time." And then he never wounded another model, I don't think, from there because I said it out loud, and well, he knew I was forgetting it, and I just couldn't recover from it. But it was a really solid game. I think I took like the first struggle like relatively quickly. I think it was like in 3 activations maybe, um, which I was feeling really good about on Sabotage, and then just forgot Mandalorian existed. And don't forget that Mando's good for a reason, so don't lose sight of him behind a building. That's my real pro tip coming out of this.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, a great game overall. It's another game where it was walked out like, man, I need to be playing Maul more. He's super cool, very relevant the entire time. I liked what he was doing with the Bad Batch there, and I feel like I was doing a really good job of like keeping Crosshair tied up the whole game. I had like Luke diving into melee with because he could keep a hunker token, so it's like I'll just throw Luke into a melee and tie up Crosshair just to keep him busy and stop taking plink damage because at that point I'm bleeding and I need to stop whatever I can. That one came down to I was clawing, like at least clawing back to parity after forgetting about Mando, and this asshole judge walks by and calls mission critical right as Austin goes to score it, and scored out right then and there on the mission critical cube. So
Although I think you're mixing your round 4 a little bit. Okay? It wasn't round 4 the one because that was against Joey when you were missing. I thought the Mando triggers were
oh
missed.
no, no, that was definitely round 3. It was on the Sabotage Showdown, and I played Kanan Mando because I think
Not unless you put it into Longshanks wrong. 'Cause
I
you have
didn't put it
Kanan
in.
Hera.
So
Oh, you have Kanan Hera for
th-
round.
that wasn't me. I make the winners
Oh,
do
well,
that.
there you
I don't
go.
do the
You
bookkeeping.
didn't escape your destiny. That same
Ah,
judge also made a comment ahead of time about, hey guys, make sure you check with your opponent before you or check your scores that get entered. Because you were Mando
Oh, yeah.
Leia in round 4, so
Well, I ran Mando Leia round 1, and then Kanan Hera round 2. I was free to play whatever I wanted by round 3,
yeah.
which was Kanan Mando.
And then Diz round 3 for you. So you played I
yeah.
believe you pronounced it Buhalan. Oh, this guy Kevin who came out from California. He was actually at SoCal. You played your Mando Kane. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong person. You played your Mando Maul into his Obi Hunter.
First of all, just the fact that you saying that I played Kanan, like that should have just been wrong coming out of your mouth to
I saw
begin
the
with.
wrong Mando person on my list on the
uh,
pairings.
so yeah, again, I look at his list. He had Hunter, Obi, Leia, Kanan, and at that point, I'm already just like, yeah, I play Mando Maul. That's just what I drop into here. I like the matchup into both those pairings or any pairing that he could potentially bring. I believe we both had shifting, and I think this one was really just punishing. I just a really nice guy, and I absolutely just went super fast. Because I think that was the game that was done in under an hour total, like 3 struggles in under an hour, and real nice guy. But I'm very much of the opinion Mando Mall just abuses Hunter Obi, and I don't think it's a very good. I don't think it's a game for Hunter Obi in most situations.
All right, so moving on to round 4. Diz, you were 3-0. Accuser 1-2. Accuser, you go against Joey Edge, another one of those North Carolina ruffians.
Like I said,
Um,
I'm just getting beat up by all of Dizzard's
and you had to stay in the
car
same house
partners. It's
with them.
awful.
Yeah, it was. That's like it's like the
It was
ultimate
a
thing to
real
do.
like salty car ride home
Yeah,
afterward.
Man,
car
that's
ride home. We drug ourselves into a Wawa for food, and then got back in time to watch the second half of the Penn State game, and then I got to be sad for all of us. Um, so Joey played Vader 2 Veers. You played Mando and PLC. Tell us about
Yep.
that one.
Uh, yeah, I mean that one was another one. I think Joey played it really well, and it was my first time seeing Veers, so that was cool. Um, he had Vader in the middle of the board, and it was a weird board. It had like a gantry running down the middle, and he had access to a high ground on his side, and then mine was like on a tower with no ingress point, which became a bit of a pain to deal with. It became a lot of like he keeps moving Vader back into the center, and I feel like I have to keep shooting Vader to shove him off the center point to then contest it from down below because I can't get something up there, or Vader shoves what I get up there off. Um, I think like the big thing that I did that I was like, ooh, this feels really clever was activating Lando Bar 2 pretty late, diving them onto Veers' back point and getting them up and ingress onto it. Was Matt, you tried to avoid it, but it was like the one table where there was an objective on one of those narrow towers, and I ran Lando up there like final activation of my deck and then sat up there where I couldn't be engaged, and then the deck flipped and he couldn't be shot, and just made them a problem for as long as I possibly could. But ultimately, like, just his creative positioning meant I couldn't get anything else onto that objective as R2 dies. So like Revenge Trigger tried to shuffle Leia up to get to range 2 to at least keep the objective, and just couldn't. So it was just a lot of like table was weird, and Joey just outmaneuvered and outplayed me at the end of it. So, but it was another one where Han and Chewie felt like they were doing a lot. So I wound up playing Mando Leia more than my intended combination of Kane and Hera.
One thing I've been kind of curious in general. So obviously going into a primary you hadn't seen before in a tournament environment, is there any
Hmm.
different way you approach? I mean, obviously, right? Like you read the card, you obviously have thought about the card, you know of the card's existence and what it can do, but it's a
You
little
got the
different
idea,
when you
yeah.
see it on the table, right? So I don't know how is your mindset changed at all when going against a primary you've never seen in action.
At this point, I'm 1-2. Like my mindset doesn't really matter. I'm limping, so it's whatever. I'm not. That is not the thing I've got to be worrying about at that point. It's just another model. Um, Snow Troopers were cool. They made hell for the Mandalorian. The Death Trooper being a stormtrooper was like in reserve immediately, then up the middle of the board pretty quick. So that was a neat trick that Veers can do. Like he can, but then to watch it happen, it's like, okay, cool. Well, that's gonna be a problem because the Death Troop is just a pain in the ass generally.
I'm in trouble.
Well, I was at that point. It's like, all right, well, race to the bottom. Here I
Yeah.
go.
Um, so then on to you, Diz. So Diz, you're 3-0. You're playing to get the
Woo.
top cut. You actually played Code Hour, who Accuser played round one because you got down paired. Again.
Mhm.
So you got down paired. You're playing, and obviously this was kind of weird. I tried to keep the top, like the people playing for top cut on tables that were not like they were next to each other, but they were like back to back, so you weren't able to like easily see over and see what was going on because I didn't want anyone to think about the other matchups. Because we had a weird situation. We had some really like going into the last round, the only position that was locked in theory, I think mathematically was Scott. And even then, he potentially could have lost because at that point we had a bunch of 3-0s and all the 2-1s had won a struggle. So there were a ton of tiebreakers and all the 3-0s won 2-0 basically, or they were playing other, or they went 2-1 against someone else who was 2-1 in their struggle. So a lot of weird math that could happen if people who were 2-0 or 3-0 got 2-0'd in struggles. Um, so going in, you played Code Hour. He played
Yeah.
he played Maul Talzin, and you played Armor Maul.
Yep. And I'll say 100%. I think that was a 100% mistake. I should have gone Maul Mando here as well. Trying to remember what his list was. He had Grievous, Dooku, Maul, Mother, and I believe he was just shifting as well. I don't remember for sure.
You guys played on shifting, so I don't know who won Prio.
Pretty sure. Yeah, he had shifting as well. So I very much just dropped Maul armor, and I was like, this will be fine. I just want to play Maul armor. I know I should be going Maul Mando here, just for the displacement, and because it is my pick for not being too aggressive, but being aggressive enough. And sure enough, halfway through Struggle 1, I'm like, I should have absolutely dropped Mando here. Like, this is a Maul Mando game. And started going real down the rabbit hole. And I lost Struggle 1, and then Struggle 2, like halfway through Struggle 2, I'm like, I'm not gonna get a freaking struggle. I'm not gonna make top cuts. I'm going from 3-0 to bottom of the barrel. Here we go. Really went down into the tank because things were just not working out. And Matt says that I was a roller coaster of emotions. So you can see it across the call.
So I'm trying to hold back laughing. So I don't like hovering around tables in general when I'm judging because I don't want people to think like they're doing something wrong. Judge watching. I actually find it very hard to be a fan of the game during judging. So I was trying to stay away, especially from like Dizzard, because he was getting near the end where he was like one of the few tables left. And boy, from across like the row of tables, I just watched Dizzard like the roller coaster of emotion in real time. Like I saw the surrender cobra. If anyone watches like college football, you put your two hands in your back of your head, like you're just like, oh, I can't believe I'm about to lose this. To then like him over the table, super hyped as he's doing something crazy, and then back to like slinking back and like staring up at the ceiling. So it was a wild ride just watching it.
Well, it was like Struggle 2. I'm at a position where I'm like, cool. I'm in this. He has attack paths. I got my revenge triggers off. I'm able to save the point. We're back in this. To me drawing paths and being like, oh god, I can't reserve paths. I can only score one with paths because he can't get across the table because it was the big triangle sideways. And I was like, I can't get across the table to affect any points. Measured it out. I'm like, if I move here, I'm not in range to get this point over here. If I move over here, because I had people on points for all the other points, but he just already had it. So I was like, if I could shoot this off, then I get the point and we're good. And I got to the point where I can't reach anything. My best option is literally just to sit here and score one and hope you don't succeed with what you need to do. And so I scored one, and luckily, he wasn't able to clutch what he needed to clutch. I think he had a bad draw too, and wasn't able to do what he needed to get done. And then I'm sitting there and I flew over Maul, and I'm like, oh my god, saved by the grace of the Dark Lord Maul. And it very much was just like, okay, cool. Maul can sit here and actually potentially flip this completely around and just just close out the struggle. Awesome. And sure enough, Maul does it. We close out struggle 2, start struggle 3, and then struggle 3 just turned into like a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, oh my god, it's getting close to mission critical. Or no, it was almost at that point. It was almost close. We were already in mission critical. It was very much almost to the point of game end, and I'm like, this is gonna come down to whose activation it is. I hate that game state. And basically ended up he drew Django, and he needed Django to flip 2 points and kill somebody. And I was like, ooh, there's actually a line here. And then sure enough, Django wasn't able to achieve what he needed to, and then I just was able to score out the final one and score 2-3 on shifting, which is always a really good feeling because shifting is like you never win 3 if you lose 1. That was a long thought process for a long time with the game, and it always feels good for me when I'm able to pull it off. But again, he's one of his brothers, really great opponent. I even told him at the end of the game, I was like, that is some of the cleanest Mother plays I have seen in a long time. And the fact that you've only been playing because he said before PAX he'd only played 10 games. I'm like, if you were at this stage of playing Mother this way and only having played 10 games before PAX, you should keep playing Mother and punish people with it because you played Mother extremely well. So big shout out to him for that.
I'll vouch for that. Mother, it was a thinking game early for me. Yeah. So he did incredible work with her. I think it's some of the best stuff I've seen out of her.
Well, and Diz, you guys had like a bloodbath of a game. You guys had 13 wound game, which was the highest wound
Yeah.
count on a game on the weekend. So
It was crazy.
certainly plenty of triggers there for Mother. All right, so end of the Swiss. Dizzard, you play second behind Scott. Accuser, you definitely played some games.
I was present and didn't drop after the second loss. Like,
you drug the Hera scores down a lot. So
I feel really bad. Like, it was the first time where I put Hera on the table and felt like I wasn't getting what I usually get out of her. It was sad.
we'll get into it a little bit, but Hera didn't get a win on the weekend. So
Yeah.
so then obviously we're not going to go too far into the top cut because spoiler, Dizzard doesn't go too far in the top cut. And
Womp, womp, womp.
Diz and I are going to be sitting down this week with Scott, who won, to talk a little bit more about the different approaches to armor that the two of them took. But what I do want to talk about, because I think a little bit of our conversation. So Saturday we're leaving the hall, and
I'm exhausted from that brutal game. Like,
yeah, right. So Dizzard just goes through the longest game he played all day. We already know the pairings because it's a seeded top cut. So we know Scott is playing a rematch of his round 4 opponent, Evan, who actually Evan and Scott played the last round of Swiss at oh no, they did not play the last round.
no, I played
Nova.
Evan last.
They played somewhere in Nova in the Swiss and then played again in first round of top cut at Nova. And then obviously we knew Diz, you were playing Joseph. So we walked away having the conversation. Obviously, Diz had already played Joseph once. Joseph played his Mando Ahsoka list once, and then his Grievous Lumi list the rest of the time. So
as well, when we were talking, he told me that he favored the Grievous Lumi and it was a good list. And we were very much like, he probably goes Grievous Lumi again. And I'm like, yeah, that makes the most sense. And I'm just like, not even thinking. And Joey's over there like, don't you just go Mando Maul into this just in case? and in my head, I'm just like, yeah, man, armor Maul all day, every day. Like, let's go. And we really kind of just like talked myself into the wrong drop. And like in hindsight though, I actually don't think it was the wrong drop. I think I still dropped Maul armor, and I think it's just play it better. Don't get greedy. I think the biggest like fault of that game is I opted instead of, and I call it putting a band-aid on a situation instead of putting a band-aid on something and taking care of Bo, who was on my point on my side of the table. Instead of taking care of her, I opted to wait and play the long game, and then it just bit me because the long game never happened. Just because the draw order, I was banking on good draw order, banking on things connecting, and it bit me in the ass to where I wasn't able to get anything to go for me. So I made bad player choices, and he was able to absolutely capitalize on those situations and play an amazing game. I will say one of the coolest things about that game. I forget Mando has an ability on his card that says he gets to add dice when he's in like a pit fight, right? And the really cool situation is he moves Mando up, draws Mando, and next to know, Mando's rolling 13 dice, and I'm just like, oh, you're rolling 13 dice. You gotta, because like, he goes to hit with Mando. I'm like, Mando doesn't do no damage. This is fine. And he's like, I'm gonna, was it fearless and inventive? I'm like, oh fuck. Like, and then we started counting up how many people were on this one point, and I was just like, well, you needed to do like 7 damage, which I felt safe, but now I don't know what safe is anymore. And sure enough, he rolls 13, gets one shots him, and I'm like, god damn. And then he turns around and draws Mando on the next activation he goes and does the same thing again. But like little less dice just because one of the guys were wounded at this point. And just completely Mando back-to-back activations just vacates a single point where I had a majority of my models. I had clumped super hard on this point. Just trying to, we both did. We both had like, I think 4 models each on that one point. Just because it was the hot point. And again, Mando back-to-back activations just completely cleared the point, put me way out of positioning to be able to make anything actually matter. Because like I could draw, and then I could like put somebody back onto a point, but putting one person on when he's already got 3 others there isn't doing a whole lot. So I just wasn't able to get myself back into the game from trying to take the greedy play, and then I got punished for it. So he played very, very well, and definitely deserved the win. So it was a fun game, though. Real fun game. It's really cool to see Mando rolling 13 dice on melee attack.
And so I also want to jump in then a little bit real quick. So obviously Dizzard has his early exit. Scott beats Evan in their rematch of round 4, and then Scott beats Joseph in the finals. Joseph again played the Mando Ahsoka list, which I do want to kind of point out. You know, we'll talk a little bit more about that, the list kind of in the meta a little bit in a second here, but the list is very interesting because it's, you know, Ahsoka, it's Wrecker and Omega, and then Tekko, with then Mando, Bo-Katan, and Clan Kryze. So a little bit different than kind of the Mando Ahsoka list we saw running around a while that Phil Scarza from Clan of Two was doing. I think that's how I pronounce his last name. I'm just off the top of my head, but what he
I
was
just call
doing.
Mother Phil.
Yeah. So kind of what
Actually, I
he
think
was
I've called
doing,
it
so,
Better Phil.
better Phil. So, you know, it's certainly a different take, but obviously now we have Bo-Katan and Clan Kryze with different eras, so you can take them under Mando. So obviously that opened up a new window. So, you know, Joseph and I had talked about the list a little bit, and kind of his reason for going with the Wrecker was really interesting. So, jumping in kind of the meta a little bit. So, most commonly brought in lists, and I'm going to share this screen just to make it easier for those of us talking. So, Mando brought the most, 9. No shock, I think, to anybody. Armor at 7. Gideon at 7. And then 5 for Maul and 5 for Iden. So, most, and then, 5 for Kanan and also 5 for Hunter. So, most commonly brought. The biggest number that surprised me on brought the most, there were 4 people bringing Veers.
Veers was a lot more present than I think I expected going in.
Yeah, I mean, he was only played in 6 games, but was brought 4 times. I just was very surprised. He was played and put on the table more often than Iden was. Veers saw the table 6 times. Iden only saw the table 5 times. 5 people brought Veers, and they only played them once. So I thought that was really interesting on the amount of Veers. And then looking at most played, obviously Mando was played the most at 17. Then Armor jumps up, played the next most at 16. Then Maul at 12. Then we jumped to Gideon at 10. So, and again, 7 players bringing Gideon and only 10 times on the table. So less than 1.5 times. I was kind of expecting Empire to not make a showing, and they didn't fail to reach that expectation. You guys all gave me weird looks, and that was my hot take last week. But apparently, it was carbonite cold. So, I think the biggest things that surprised me for looking at what was let's start with anything else like that. So, you know, for you guys, Diz, any thoughts on kind of this primary breakdown here?
No, I think like the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 make a whole lot of sense. Like all the ones that are like 10 and up, for being played. That's pretty much what I expected to be in there. I did expect a little bit more like Empire representation, but it definitely seemed like a lot of people wanted to play Armor. A lot of people wanted to play kind of like a wide berth of things. So it was kind of cool to see. There's a lot of unused primaries, which was always sad to see, but nothing really surprises me there with where the current competitive state of the game is. I think we all kind of expected Mando to be number 1. I was kind of surprised with Armor being number 2. And it's just nice to see Maul like up in there being played a shit ton again. I think this is where Maul belongs. Maul belongs in the top table, and he should always be there. Sorry, top most played, not necessarily top table, but like played a lot.
Accuser, you go, because I have another thought I want to add on, but I'll let you get your thoughts in here first.
I mean, I don't think the top like 6 or 7 characters or any particular surprise. Veer's kind of surprised. I think a lot of people were kind of dismissive of him. So he's like he's up there. He's what, 3, 6,
He's
7?
7. He's number 7.
Yeah, that's really cool. Very excited to see that. I love seeing Anakin here. Anakin got more games than either Vader, and I don't know the last time we saw that.
Well,
So that's one that really jumps out at me. He had 6 game to Vader 2's 5. Um, I think that's really cool to see. Anakin kind of being a little present. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't think the unused is particularly surprising.
so real quick,
Sad, but it's not surprising.
before we go into the unused, I want to kind of point something out with this like with the breakdown here a little bit. Something I always find interesting. So yeah, right. One thing that Accuser said is about Anakin. So going down the list in terms of most times played on the table, what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So eighth was Count Dooku, and ninth was Anakin, and then seventh was Veers, all put on the table 6 times. The interesting thing I always find is like, so Dooku and Anakin were only brought by 2 players and were played 6 times. So those are players who, one of them was Scott with Dooku, who's like, I want to play Dooku Armorer. That is my list. Same with the Anakin player. Like one of them is Jan Jabor, who Diz played, who just said, I want to play Anakin 3 rounds. Period. So those surprise me less when you see those random spikes. That means like, hey, 2 people just decided I really want to play Anakin all the time. Right? That's why we get that. What surprises me
Oh
more
yeah,
is when I see something like Iden, who 5 players brought Iden in their list, and Iden only saw the table 5 times. So the Iden players thought it was fine to bring Iden, but only put Iden on the table once. That surprises me more. Same with Vader 2. 4 people brought
By
Vader 2, and he only saw the table 5 times.
by ratio, like almost everything else saw more play than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iden basically had the worst, and she was in 5 lists. So she was in the top quarter for appearances in lists and had tied for the worst ratio of played.
Yeah. And that's
I'm sorry,
what's
actually got the worst ratio
yeah,
of played.
right. And what's funny, what's crazier to me is isn't Vader like the one that's right below her for worst, like
Yeah.
worst ratio? Yeah, like
Yep.
what
So
world
like
is
that's
this?
where I find the number really weird is it's less based on even like, yeah, great. We saw Anakin saw a table 6 times. Again, we had like 2 diehard Anakin players at the event, and they decided to put Anakin on the table a bunch, right? So um that is
I think
the
that's just cool. They're out there.
oh,
We
I
kind
definitely
of
agree it's
dismiss it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And same with the Dooku, right? Like people were largely dismissing Dooku for a while. There's a couple things there. So like, no, I totally think it's awesome for the game that we're still seeing these models pick up. From a data perspective, the bigger shock thing to me are the bad ratios for things like Iden. Um, and then getting into unused, so it's a long list. Asajj, Cad Bane, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, Queen Padme, Grand Inquisitor, Crosshair, Chirpa, Chirpa, Logray, Leia Organa, Freedom Fighter, and Luke. I think nothing surprises me either. Maybe Luke, maybe Leia.
I think Luke's
I don't.
Luke's the big one for me. Like that's like the only one
I'm
that I'm
not.
like I could have seen this.
Luke is an interesting one because I do think like the fact he's immune to expose a lot prevents him from like getting got by armor like early, which I mean, I don't hate that, but I still think it's just indicative because like you look at Kanan, um, what the average of 2 plays for everyone that brought him. Then Leia and Hera and Han just have. I think it's just speaking to Rebels don't have the options right now. I know Luke's a agnostic. He doesn't require having Rebels with him. Totally understanding that, but like he likes having Rebels that can move him around, just to get him a little bit further up the board. And I think Rebels just aren't. I don't think they're there right now to kind of have a package that helps move Luke.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean one person brought Han and played him twice. So
Yep.
kind of taking a snapshot real quick of the top 8 of the top cut list. Obviously we know what Dizzard played, who wound up in fourth. In third, Evan Ritt, who we saw Nova made top cut. He brought a Hondo Hunter list and then a Mando and Kanan list, and I think he was in that same mindset of wanted to play. Um, I guess he played mostly the Mando Kanan. I know Hunter Hondo is always one of his favorite things, but he obviously got stuck playing a lot of Mando Kanan. General Joseph, who we had talked about, came in second. He had he brought Mando Ahsoka list that we talked about, and then Grievous and Lumi, and then in first was Scott, who brought a Dooku armor, which is the one he ran the most, and then just a Kanan PLC as his other list. He ran once to get it out of the way during the Swiss. So that's where we kind of wound up in our top four. Looking at kind of some of the win percentages. So obviously it's always weird how Longshanks does this. The win percentages here go back only to Swiss, even though when we looked at our total times played here, this includes Top Cut. So you always got to remove like the people who like the one time, like Ahsoka had 100% win rate. She got played once in the Swiss. Hondo, 100% win rate, got played twice. Of people played, I guess I would call like a significant amount of time. We have Armor checking in at 69% win rate. She went 9-4 with 13 games. I don't think that surprises anyone, right? We kind of talked about it, and I think it's more right now that people aren't as prepared for Armor, or I guess they're just not that they're not prepared, right? Everyone sees it coming. More just no one has figured out a way to play around it appropriately.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a real deep way of looking at it. I don't have a better way of thinking about it. I think we're just not ready to solve the equation. And then next past that, Maul 64%, 7-4. Kanan 60%. Played 10 times. Mando played a lot in the Swiss. 15 times, most games played, 60% win rate, went 9-6 overall. I guess that surprised me a little bit that the win rate was that high, only because I know a lot of people just like Mando. So I thought with that many games played, you were going to see a lot of the people, frankly, just people who are like, I just want to play Mando because Mando, I like the TV show.
I feel because like Xanos Fauna has been doing like the GT recording of stats for like primaries and win rates and all that. And it's actually is kind of like almost on par for that. Like the numbers that are above 10 are very much on par for what you're seeing on like their spreadsheet for like GTs. Is ever since Armor came out, Mando's like received a huge spike for like his overall like placements in win rates. So I think now you have a fan favorite to be played, and on top of that, it is even better than it was before. So,
and then kind of moving down for other significant counts, Hunter was played 9 times, had a 44% win rate, and then Moff Gideon played 10 times, 30% win rate. We talked about it, right? Just really not always having a great showing, but brought a lot, right? People see the value in that tax, but maybe it's just that unlike Armor, where the player base still hasn't figured out how to kind of play around Armor or how to play into it, people have learned how to play into the Moff Gideon.
well, with Moff, it's just 100%. You just play with what you're given, and then you learn to make the best out of your draws instead of just dwelling on, oh, I'm fucked now. Like, I can't play this. You just learn to play with what you're given and be good with it and find your outs. And I think the player base is like gotten better. I think the player base has gotten better with like stuff like that since Moff came out because they were kind of forced to, and I love that. So
yeah, look, and obviously the player base, kind of figured out how to play around Iden a little bit more, and I'm sure we'll figure out Armor soon enough, right? I find it kind of curious. We had even talked about on this podcast about playing. I think it was Omnis who said people should go out and play games intentionally into Gideon to like learn how to play around the tax. it Omnis?
I don't.
Yes, I don't know. I'll have to go back and look.
We'll say it
But
is.
Could have been. Well, why not? We'll give him credit.
Yeah, wait, Diz? No, never give Diz credit. Omnis, we'll give Omnis credit. That guy. But that was kind of the the breakdown of the games of the units or primary, sorry, that were played more frequently. Again, I kind of agree. Nothing overly shocked me. I mean, obviously, I predicted that we were going to see very little Empire, and hey, we saw very little Empire. Um,
Well, aren't
Omnis
you a
put some
prophet?
kind of Omnis put some kind of curse on the whole event, and Vader 1 didn't get a win at any point. So Omnis was really there in spirit. He was just cursing Vader 1. Um, Overall, do you guys think? Let's go. Let's start with you, Accuser, who obviously had the most kind of list wavering. Hindsight, would you have taken a different list? Would you have made any kind of changes?
um, I don't know if it would have been necessarily bring a different list. I probably would have locked in a list a while ago and gotten reps with it. Um, my I don't play 9 games a week and it shows. So probably shouldn't have put Kane and Mando on the table without knowing how to play that. And then forgetting Mando even was like there for half the game. It just shows that I am not getting the practice that I need to make a cut. But I don't think it's the list that's the problem at that point.
Yeah, I don't know if any list helps you from forgetting things in the
there
card.
there was
Like,
no list that was
oh,
going to fix that.
and like Diz, who doesn't read his own Mando and know what his opponent's Mando does, which is the same as what his Mando does.
Yeah, like I could have gotten into a tar pit and had Fearless and Inventive online. I just forgot he was there.
And then Diz, to you, any kind of thoughts, changes, anything you would do differently?
To be honest, I probably would have played more Never Tell Me in testing. I would argue that I probably punted Never Tell Me because like looking at data and all that type of stuff from previous GTs that are leading up to this, people are very much off of Never Tell Me to where it's like down on like the sub 20% taken at events, and I kind of was like, it'll be fine. I'm gonna focus on these games, so I didn't get enough reps on Never Tell Me with my list to be able to pick wisely. Because even after we were discussing, it's like we kind of just shrugged off like certain pairings on Never Tell Me without ever even looking at it. It's just like, oh, this is bad here, and it's like, but we never really explored why is this bad here. And then we explored it that night, and we're like, this is actually kind of good here. Like, there's some secret tech here going. Not really secret, but there's some like tech here that's like kind of wild. So it very much just not getting. I think I had like good quality reps. It just I didn't. I punted and I shouldn't have punted. Is really what it comes down to. As far as list construction itself, I don't change a single thing. I love this list, and I'm having a hard time finding anything else that like makes me excited to play it. I just want to play this list still. So
There you go. And obviously, we're going to talk more on that episode this week with Scott about kind of some of your approaches on armor, because obviously, kind of spoiler for everyone, look, the general community feeling is armor is a armor and Mando pairing, or armor and Maul pairing
Wrong.
are kind of the two favorite ones. Most people play them in a 2x2, right? So like they're seeing armor has one home. Well, Diz kind of brought armor in a little bit of a not anchor, but a 1x1 times 1+1 world. And then Scott went off the cuff and did something completely out there with armor and went armor Dooku, which I had messaged him like 3 weeks ago when I saw him playing it and said, "Oh, how you feeling about it?" He's like, "I'm just messing around." And I just thought it was just Scott being Scott and just deciding. He's like, "Well, I do love Dooku, so I'm just gonna force Dooku into everything and see what happens." And obviously it worked. So we're gonna dig more into that, kind of their less standard takes on armor.
I
That'll
gotta
be this week.
I gotta give credit to. Oops. Excuse me.
Oh, as Dizzard sneezes.
Oh man. Okay.
Slightly away from the microphone for everyone
At least
home.
I mean, at least I'm like not rude and I just make everybody listen to it. But I gotta give Clown Town, aka Austin, some credit because early on in armor testing, he gravitated towards the Dooku play, but he ended up not playing it. He probably should have played it actually. It's really good. It's fun to see play, and it's really interesting pairing. And I can't wait to hear what Scott has to say on the performance of it from his his perspective.
I also am curious to hear more about like how his games, and obviously I got to break down your games a lot because one of the things, as I said, with like as a judge, I don't like hovering at a table much. I kind of like float by every table. I kind of time myself and do some passes. The big thing for me though is also like obviously I didn't wear my rogue support shirt right during the tournament because yes, obviously everyone there who's local knows me and they know I'm on this podcast and they know who you guys are. But I just don't ever want the appearance that there's any like favoritism. I didn't want to like stand over games and watch them, even though as a fan I wanted to. Like I wanted to watch the Top Cut games, so I intentionally put our key operations side event that day. So I was like helping everyone through key operations, including myself. And I was just staying close enough that if you guys needed a judge call, I was over there. I think I had 3 total judge calls in Top Cut, and they were all just somebody saying, "Hey, can you confirm this like angle or line of sight type thing?" So didn't have to make a ruling. Just had to sit there and watch. Like, well, didn't even watch. Just sat there and ran key operations. So
On the key operations thing, I do have to say that was a lot of fun. If you haven't tried key operations, make a point to take them for a spin, even if it's just a way to test something new you haven't tried yet, because that's ultimately what I wound up doing with it. Um, what was the name of the one we played? We played the one with
we played Extract
the agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a super cool mission. So I definitely recommend everyone try at least one of them just to get a feel for it. It's a cool way
And
to play.
we are planning in an upcoming episode to talk about the like alternate mission, like alternate game modes, and just alternate formats in general. I also have to, if the people from Goonhammer are listening, I still have to find us putting putting the finishing touches on these articles that I'm doing about the key operation one. So I got to get back to that. That's got to be this week. I got to get that done before Christmas. So
Yeah, I know you and I talked about playing some more of them online. It just hasn't happened yet, but
yeah,
we'll figure it out too.
they're a lot of fun, but you got to remember you're getting out of it kind of what you get in. It's designed to be fun, right? Like it's not designed to be a
Yeah.
competitive game of Shatterpoint. So
I ultimately used it as an excuse to put Kanan and Mando on the table again to try out something, and I didn't hate where that went. So I think that's ultimately going to be where my premiere list goes from here.
but that is everything that I had and wanted to talk about kind of with PAX. Any additional thoughts for you guys? Is anything, any other takeaways in general you had? Any groundbreaking thoughts that came through towards the meta or towards your plans moving forward?
Um, I guess I'll put like on this next episode of Dragon Ball Z. We're probably gonna be diving deep into like armor thoughts with the episode with Scott. I think we're gonna do that as a bonus episode on the Patreon feed, but make this one free as well, because I think it's good. Like it's a season of giving. So I'll just put that up there. But I want to explore a lot of those thoughts there in that conversation, because we did kind of like spend a lot of time going over a lot of things that I think we knew, but we didn't like visualize, and it really changed the perspective of certain things. So yeah, there are some thoughts brewing of stuffs and things, but I think the biggest thing is big thank you to Matt for running the event and doing a wonderful job, because it is a thankless job being a TO when all you want to do is play your game. So big thank you to you for doing that. Big thanks to the guys from Adepticon sending out the terrain to play with there. And thank you to everybody who showed up and played games, and you guys were all wonderful, and I'm glad we got to have the experience that we did. So that's me.
And then yeah, Accuser, any kind of final thoughts in general?
I love traveling to cons and getting to meet people and hang out and share the game we presumably all enjoy to a fair degree, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't travel for it. But yeah, it was super cool to meet everyone. Matt, thanks for hosting and for running the event, because I mean, it went real smooth, and you're a fair and balanced judge. I can't really complain, even though I will. That Mission Critical sucked, but if anyone's wondering if Matt's a fair judge, I didn't get a pass, so no worries there.
Mission Critical? Yeah, no one gets a pass on
Absolutely
Mission
not.
Critical.
Yeah, no.
What kind of question is that?
No, it statement of fact, right? Like does it really happen right now? Yeah, it happened right now, and
Oh,
fair call. No, but like I loved going to the event. I loved meeting everyone. I'm sure I was a bit miserable as like my day went south, but I still was having fun. It just probably didn't look like it. So, um, but yeah, if you get the opportunity to go to a con, guys, like definitely worth checking out at least once. Everyone there is super cool, and I mean, outside of um, Shatterpoint, it's cool to see like if you're a fan of like Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Legion was going on. They had X-wing and Armada. All the AMG games were well represented there. I think X-wing had like 40 people. Like that was my first game, so I was happy to see it going strong.
yeah, speaking of the like Legion and stuff, that's actually where we lost two of our players for the GT went to Legion. So
Turns out
up
the
in
new
our
rules are cool.
yeah, so up in our and actually they played on the final table at the Legion GT. Two guys who played in our Shatterpoint event Friday. We're planning on playing Shatterpoint up until this week, and then we're like, man, the new rules are cool, but like so Nick Bodnar, who won the GT, if any of you play Legion, he did the Legion 99 podcast. I was told early on that I am the Nick Bodnar of Shatterpoint in the Northeast, where just have a million tables, will run events, and
His tables are amazing too. Like
yeah. Um
so good.
so he's part of like my local community for Shatterpoint now as well. So about a week in advance, he's like, this new like recon squad's really cool. I think I'm gonna give him a whirl on Legion, and then wound up winning the Legion GT. So it was I thought it was hysterical. But and we had some people who traveled besides like you guys who obviously came from North Carolina. We saw Sean Lynch again, who was at PAX last year, flew up from Dallas. Um, we talked about Buhali, I think is how you pronounce his name, but Kevin, who came out from California. One of the guys came out from Oregon, Commander Cruiser, who I actually think played in the event or he's from Washington, sorry, and like has played in events with Omnis, and I think he was there that weekend. If you were in the Discord, Omnis was talking about that event from, well, I guess last week we talked about on the podcast, but I thought Commander Cruiser I saw on the list for that as well. So kind of cool to see people traveling that far to PAX. So certainly a fun time. I'm happy that I don't have to TO again until Nova. I guess I don't know what's going on with Atlantic City Open because Frontline Gaming is shifting things up a lot with their event coordinator going, and I don't know if Goonhammer is going to be having space this year for Shatterpoint. So I might not do anything like official until Nova, which would be sweet. But I mean, besides like our local events and bringing terrain, but no major events.
All righty. Well, with that, I guess we can wrap this up. I guess the most Star Wars thing you could do. eh,
You ended on that. Oh, that was great.
uh,
Oh my goodness.
Solid.
Oh, you got me for a second. I literally went like, oh crap, he hit end recording before saying, oh, wait a minute.
And
I
that's the
see
joke.
what you did there. Ha. Ha ha.
yay. All right. Well,
I think the
that was
most
fun.
Shatterpoint thing was every time over the weekend we would just instantly call when Disney would go, wow. Joey
It's a
would say
thing.
something, and just kind of like look over at Disney and be like, wow.
It's a thing though. I like when I say wow, I say wow. Like
The
every
full
time.
Owen Wilson.
Yeah, you gotta go full Owen. Wow.
But just
Joey's
such a
really
predictable
funny.
time.
That was in the car when he was just ribbing you, like, oh, here we go. Diz is talking about himself again. Like I lost my mind.
That's how we do it. That's how we do it.
See, Omnis wasn't there, so someone had to pull forward that energy.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, I need to get going. Everybody looks
Same.
like we're all good. So,
Yep.
all right.
Chat
I'll
went
see you
quiet.
Thanks
guys
for hanging out with
later.
everyone.
Thanks for hanging, guys.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Later.